looks silly, but it's a lot easier to read and speak.
This is live now.
We're live. We're live. It's too early, but we wanted to start it early so people can get on.
Okay, how's it sound around this silly thing on?
It should sound. It should sound better than muffled.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put them in the middle? Do you want me to tell them
No.
to?
Okay. Look distinguished. Hey, Maggie. Maggie, would you feel comfortable coming up and doing the candle blessing? It's up to you, yes or no? It's up to you, no for it.
I'm just very weak.
Okay. Yeah, I got 15 I can donate to you.
Yeah, I get a few office. Sorry.
Turn around, I'm over to Quincy.
Should we all be over here? Should we all be over here or something? Or-
Well,
I've been sitting over there and I didn't think about it.
I know we'd like to get people in the middle, but there's so few people here that, like tonight, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I won't be here next Friday.
Okay.
Get that. Get the
Hi, Sam. Shalom.
Shalom.
There we go.
Put us in you.
Oh, I like this.
Get it set up.
Put us down for some code, some Rosh Hashanah, and one good word.
Evening or morning,
The will be here Friday, Saturday night.
well, it's like you be on Zoom, you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, it's on Zoom?
Yeah. And once I get the list, I'll send out details.
Yeah, but you got to send you, so you know where we're
Yeah, for restaurant, you know, people both evening and morning.
Originally, I was going to be out of town.
at night.
Area. I'm not going to be in town.
So,
I'll be here for the morning, on holidays.
also,
Late afternoon,
that's what,
The maximum
Yes.
people we have here.
Yes, I don't know, we'll get
What's that?
Yeah,
what's
so
the temple Israel?
probably need to
Not have a CBD.
well, there's a lot of days, so.
Is it put together?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that was part of what
I'm not worried about more than one person.
Yeah, I had lunch with them yesterday after the second time.
We need it covered, just right for the
No,
different
no,
services.
Yeah.
Not only that,
Not just if I should
It's not?
no, it's actually about 60.
print out
He's
the
only a few years younger than me.
service times,
Yeah.
so he'll have them.
It's a lot younger.
Yeah, I'll print out the service
What's Jeffrey
times,
doing?
get them to him.
What's Jeffrey
And,
doing?
I mean,
He's working up in Madison, Wisconsin.
that way I don't have to be here
He's got a job.
Right.
8
How
hours.
about Nate?
Oh, no,
The guy can
no.
do
Coming.
the morning service and second. He's not going to do it. And that was the service on Yom
As long as
Kippur.
they're gainfully
So it'll
employed.
be morning,
They're both working.
And then about 4:30, I think it starts, until about 6:30.
yeah.
I think that's what it
Cold
is, yeah.
hydrated a few hours, couple
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
Sam,
Okay.
you're quite the man.
Are we?
Sam the man.
My uncles used to say, Sam the gardener.
Oh, yeah, but we're live now. So everybody's getting all this.
Suppose I can use this for
Everything good?
Wouldn't help it out.
Some belts, but
I got to cancel 3 vacations.
Oh, I'm sure,
Maybe more, I don't know. We keep rescheduling and keep canceling.
those create a funny glare.
Can you see through that?
I can see the picture glare.
You like that better than the clock?
And it's better than talk. It's easier to talk.
Yeah.
I had 5:30.
Yes.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Welcome back. You'll see I traded in the one mask for a new kind of mask. I got a new job moonlighting as a welder, and I figure I could use this at night on Fridays.
You're going to bring us all together. as
Yes.
Well,
All right. Yes, that's right. Great Sam. I'm trying to weld the community. We begin our service with a song led by our organist, Nicole Pizzurno, on page 333, Yariba. Turn back now to pages 2 and 3, and to help us welcome Shabbat with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, it's a pleasure to call upon Denise Eichmann.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own way, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'nishanu, b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, l'hadlik el sher Shabbat. Blessed art you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with the mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishano b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Page 6. We enter the sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Together, now we in our turn come into the sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place with peace. May holiness wrap around us and across our questions. Weariness, doubt, will fall in our human hearts. Our hearts as we let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us and lift our hearts up. Page 9 at the bottom. And we offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat which unites us in faith and hope. Together, for Shabbat holiness which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memory is glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love, we offer thanks and blessings, O God. On page 10 at the top, Yine Matov. Page 23. Adonai is sovereign, God is robed in grandeur. Adonai is robed, God is girded with strength. The world stands firm and cannot be shaken. Your throne stands firm from of old, from eternity you existed. The ocean sounds, Adonai. The ocean sounds its thunder. The ocean sounds its pounding. Above the thunder of the mighty waters, more majestic than the breakers of the sea is Adonai, majestic on high. Your decrees are indeed enduring. Holiness befits your house, Adonai, for all times. Shalom Aleichem on the next page.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharim, Malachei Elyon, Rileh, Malachei Adamim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Proclaim Shalom
Sheba and Jacob left Beersheba at Alpha Paran. Coming upon a certain place, he passed the night there, for the sun was setting. Taking one of the stones of the place, he made it his headrest as he lay down in that place. He dreamed, and lo, a ladder was set on the ground, with its top reaching to heaven. And lo, angels of God going up and coming down on it. And lo, Adonai stood up above it and said, I, Adonai, the God of your father Abraham, God of Isaac, the land on which you are lying I will give to you and to your descendants. And your descendants shall be like the dust of the earth. And you shall spread out to the west and the east and the north and the south. Through you and your descendants all the families of the earth shall find blessing. And here I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this soil. I will not let go of you as long as I have yet to do what I have promised you. Waking from his sleep, Jacob said, Truly Adonai is in this place, and I did not know it. He was awestruck and said, How awe-inspiring is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Yikadah, Yikadah, Shmei Rama, Yikadah, 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 B'chai, Yikadah, B'chai, Yikadah, Yisrael, Barada, Barada, Ubizman, Kari, Bimaru, Amen, Yehei, Shmei Rama, B'chorah, Yeholah, Me'omaya, Yisbarah, Yisbarah, Yishtamah, Yisbarah, Yishtamah, Yisnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yadeh, V'yadlah, Shemei Kudishah, V'rihu, V'leila, V'kovekata, V'shirata, Tushbekata, V'nemata, Ta'amihila, Yomah, V'inaru, Amen. Page 28, please stand for our flute. Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever.
Praise God, praise Him now and forever.
Page 30. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Amen, Amen. 32. Everlasting love you offer your people Israel by teaching us Torah and Mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loved your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Elohei Chano Yisrael. 34. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. asher lefi mitzavecha hayom alavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'divarta ba'am v'shivtecha v'etecha v'blechlecha v'aderech v'shachbecha v'kumecha v'shaitam leo v'chayadecha v'hayu v'tatavot v'necha v'utatam al-mezuzot v'etecha v'visharecha l'ma'antis kevru v'asitem v'komutakan v'tem kedoshim v'netem ani Adonai Elohim asher tzedekechem me'eretz Mitzrayim li'yot lachem ani Adonai Elohim. On page 37 together. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Tell them about my work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you to become your God. I am Adonai your God. Page 39. Responsibly in the middle of the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. And though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day, the nation will be one and in peace. As joy rejoices, Israel did, singing and rejoicing.
La la la
Together at the middle of 43. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long, and deep shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter and peace. Over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, Operation Kashalom Aleinu, Ve'Kol Amo Yisrael, Ve'al Yerushalayim. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. silently pages 155 to the Sholom 167. turn our thoughts to those who are ill, those who are healing. We keep in our prayers continued good wishes for Kenny Elliott, April Foster, and Judy Foster, a continued recovery for Debbie Weiner, and included in our thoughts this week, Alan Cherrick. Nothing serious, he had a small outpatient procedure, just isn't allowed to lift anything heavy for a few days, but otherwise okay. Are there others whose names you'd like to keep in our prayers, Harvey?
The Ori family, Elaine Phillips and Ron Simmer.
Carl Needle and Mary Reisenberg.
Very well. Yishmerach Eloheinu V'Motenu Abraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Baruch Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health. was chatting over a beer the other night with a young man named Josh. I wouldn't call Josh a close friend, more of a good chap, but we have mutual friends in common, so he wasn't a total stranger either. When we started trading our life stories, that's when it all came tumbling out. His story sounded like something you hear on one of those late night news shows like 2020. The ones you listen to with interest, but then forget about because they always happen to other people. As Josh told it, his grandfather had been in prison since 2009, accused and convicted of murdering his girlfriend back in 1987. In other words, more than 20 years between the alleged crime and the conviction. He was recently released when the lower court's decision was vacated by the Missouri State Supreme Court. Josh only has memories of his grandfather from when Josh was a small boy. That's how long this thing has been going on. And of course couldn't possibly imagine his grandpa was guilty. A weapon was never found, the DNA evidence was very thin and highly dubious, and Grandpa was at work when the murder occurred. But how could such a miscarriage of justice occur, I wondered. According to Josh, it was a small town in Missouri, and the victim's family had influence and brought pressure to bear. I mentioned the Innocence Project, and he said they had been wonderful and instrumental in his grandfather's release. There was countervailing DNA evidence that had been withheld, and a plausible theory of the crime involving another suspect, now dead, that was not allowed to be presented. But the story hasn't ended yet. The state's attorney is promising to bring new charges and retry the case. I'm not sure how that's possible under double jeopardy. And meanwhile, Grandpa is now in his 70s. Well, of course, this was all purely anecdotal. A story is told over a beer by a loving grandson. But it almost all checked out when I went on the internet and Googled Donald Nash murder. You can check it out for yourselves if you're interested. If there is such a thing as a miscarriage of justice, this would certainly seem to meet the minimum requirements. My dear friends, if one were to dial up Judaism, there would be certain catchphrases in the ringtone. Many of them are familiar to us. There is only one God, be holy as God is holy, be kind to the stranger since you know the heart of the stranger, having once been strangers in the land of Egypt. Leave the corners of your fields for the poor and the hungry. Protect the widow and the orphan. These are some of the fundamentals of Judaism. Another one rings out to us from this week's Torah portion. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. Justice is a cornerstone of Judaism. And while it would be easy enough to leave it at that, it's really not so easy. It's not so easy because it's really not so easy to define what we mean by justice. Is justice whatever the majority happen to say is justice? Is justice an absolute, or does our understanding of what constitutes justice change according to context, time, and place? Are we right, reflexively and automatically, to assume that the underdog or designated victim in any given situation always holds the most just position? That old platitude about speaking truth to power? Well, I think many of us can recognize an injustice. And here I'm reminded of Supreme Court Justice Potter's test for obscenity. I may not be able to define it, but I recognize it when I see it. Nevertheless, our instincts are not always correct, even in this regard. We live in an age when narrative has replaced history and facts, which is why the Palestinians have successfully garnered so much of the world's sympathy at the expense of Israel. The past several months in our own country have been testimony to how the media, mob rule, and constantly repeated memes and mantras can have us all believing that isolated, highly publicized incidences of abuse mean that police around the country routinely target and conspire to deliberately kill Black Americans, even when carefully collected data prove otherwise. For that, you might see the work of Heather McDonald, whose research indicates that while blacks are accosted and roughed up more often and reforms are needed, they are by no means being deliberately targeted. We think we know what is meant by justice and injustice, but it's just really not so simple. Here are two further examples about which I've recently read, which suggest how easily the terms can be manipulated or politicized. The first concerns euthanasia or assisted suicide, which in some jurisdictions has been made legal. But is legal always just? What if one spouse wants to be made dead and that decision is opposed by the other? Or what if siblings object to a depressed brother's decision to be put down and beg doctors not to kill him, to no avail? Both cases happened in Canada, the most recent involving a wife trying to prevent her husband's being euthanized. She lost because the benefit of the doubt goes to death once assisted suicide becomes legal. As part of the evidence, one nurse practitioner said the husband met the criteria for assisted suicide, while another argued he did not. The latter authored a separate written report in which she elaborated, "I do not feel he is capable of making decisions due to dementia. He has a grievous, progressive, and incurable illness, but I do not feel that death is foreseeable." Imagine being helpless to prevent a doctor or nurse practitioner from killing your beloved spouse. We saw the same phenomenon here in the States too. Early on in Oregon's assisted suicide regime, Kate Cheney, an elderly woman with dementia, was determined by a psychiatrist to be mentally ineligible to consent to assisted suicide, and moreover believed that Cheney's daughter might be driving the process. If the protective guidelines worked as advertised, that would have been the end of it, but as often happens, the daughter went doctor shopping, and a psychologist okayed the assisted suicide despite the potential for family pressure. And so it came to pass. Legal, yes, but just. Here's a second example, this one involving the current hot topic of transgendering, wherein a teacher in the state of Virginia was fired for misgendering a student. A Virginia school board voted unanimously to fire a teacher after he refused to comply with administrators' orders to use a female student's preferred masculine pronouns. The student had transitioned over the summer and began identifying as a man. Peter Flaming, a much-loved 7-year French teacher, also a bus driver and soccer coach, at West Point High School, went to great lengths to accommodate the student without violating his own Christian faith. He used the student's new name to avoid upsetting the student, but refrained from using pronouns altogether in the student's presence to avoid speaking against his belief that God created human beings male and female. I'm happy to avoid female pronouns, not to offend, because I'm not here to provoke, Flaming told the press. But I can't refer to a female as a male and a male as a female in good conscience and faith. However, this was not enough to satisfy the student's family, who said it made their child feel different, or the board, who claimed to create a hostile learning environment. I can't think of a worse way to treat a child than what was happening, said the principal, who had ordered the teacher to use the student's preferred pronouns against his beliefs. It seems that on one occasion, when the student was at risk of walking into a wall during a class virtual reality exercise, the teacher slipped up and referred to the student as her. Interestingly, during the administrative hearing, the principal made the same slip-up. Sadly, while Flaming was willing to work to make the student a cherished member of the community, the school board was not willing to work to make the teacher a cherished member as well. Instead of pursuing a solution that would respect everyone, teacher and student alike, the school board refused to respect Flaming's belief and terminated him. Many students and parents protested his firing when they subsequently learned of the reasons, and a possible lawsuit by Flaming was pending. Technically, the firing was legal, but was it just? When all is said and done, even the Hebrew is not particularly helpful because of added layers of meaning and nuance. Hebrew can be wonderfully rich in ambiguities. The root of the Hebrew word tzedakah can also have overtones of charity, righteousness, equity, fairness, which may be in various ways related concepts, but none being definitive. An essay by Aviad Kushner in the August 19th foreword elaborates. With all eyes on the Supreme Court, now is the time to think about justice, both the noun and the idea. For centuries, tzedek, the Hebrew word for justice, and its close relative, tzedakah, or charity, have attracted the great minds of Judaism from the prophet Isaiah to Maimonides, what we might think of as the all-star team. The close relationship of the words tzedek and tzedakah, along with tzaddik, meaning righteous person, tell us to think deeply about how justice, charity, and being righteous are linked. The Torah loudly insists that tzedek is actually a life or death issue. The strongest argument for the importance of tzedek comes, interestingly enough, from Deuteronomy 16, verse 20, a verse that has been in the headlines lately. In this verse, the Torah specifically connects the pursuit of justice with life itself. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdov, lema'an tihyeh. Justice, justice shalt thou follow, that thou mayest live, is how the 1917 JPS translated it. Yes, live. But it must be said, not everyone translates tzedek as justice. Everett Fox in the Shocking Bible intriguingly renders tzedek as equity. Here is the entire verse in Fox's translation. Equity, equity you are to pursue in order that you may live and possess the land that your God is giving you. So I thought about justice versus equity, she says. I found myself wondering what tzedek actually means. One of my blunter relatives quickly told me that, well, the meaning is obvious. Because I'm trying hard not to assume anything these days, I decided to try the dictionary first. Evan Shoshan, the authoritative Hebrew dictionary, points out that in Aramaic the word is tzedek, and in Arabic, sadak means he told the truth. Okay, I can see where this is going, and I wonder why I haven't thought about it this way. What is just is what is true. Or to put it another way, justice is truth. Tzedek, according to Shoshan, has a primary definition, literally, of straightness, honesty, the path of truth. By straightness, the dictionary means not being crooked. Shoshan quotes the Psalms to back up his sense that justice means truth. Here the dictionary quotes Isaiah chapter 11. Thus he shall judge the poor with equity and decide with justice for the lowly of the land. I turn to the biblical commentators and see how they understand that famous verse, justice, justice you shall pursue. Ibn Ezra, who often zeroes in on small grammatical details, focuses on the repetition, but not on the actual word. He says that it means to talk with those who disagree, and that the repetition is there because justice must be pursued whether you personally win or lose. Ibn Ezra offers a further possible and rather beautiful explanation for the doubling of tzedek, that this pursuit of justice will be there for all the days of your existence to strengthen you. Not just to live, but to become strong. This, it occurs to me, is an interesting way to think about the barrage of injustice we're experiencing, that it will, in the end, strengthen us. But Ibn Ezra still doesn't explain what he thinks tzedek is. Maybe he agrees with my blunt relative, it's just too obvious to discuss. Fortunately, someone thinks the word tzedek is indeed worth explaining. The commentator who goes all out here is Nachmanides, known in Hebrew as the Rambam. Like Ibn Ezra, he has a reason for the double mention of tzedek, but his reason is different. Rambam says that if you pursue justice on your own, you will live, and if not, you will be judged and face the consequences. But then Rambam comments on what tzedek, the word, actually means, and I was deeply moved. The first and foremost source of real tzedek, Rambam says, is the Shekinah, the presence of God. In other words, God is justice. But what happens when a human being tries to be just? There are two possibilities, as we all know, that decency is rewarded or that it is not. For centuries, this aspect of justice has particularly intrigued Jewish thinkers in all languages and cultures. Sadi Gaon says, Tzaddikim suffer so that they may be rewarded more generously in the next world. Maimonides, a few centuries later, swatted away this argument. Maybe because the righteous often suffer, and because towering minds do not agree about why this is, Jewish prayers have always highlighted justice and mentioned judges. The word combination, tzedakah and mishpat, often appears together, charity and law. Mishpat, law, is the second word from tzedek and tzedakah, but the concepts of justice, charity, and law are still related because of their proximity to one another in prayers and in so many other places. And this we should notice. Biblical commentary often notes the neighboring words of the verse. Now more than ever, we must do the same. We must look again at those familiar combinations, tzedek and mishpat, justice and law, or to go with Fox's rendition, equity and law. And we must re-examine tzedakah and mishpat, charity and law. We must insist that this family of values and Jewish tradition not be separated. Now is the time to return to the roots of who we are, linguistically, historically, intellectually, and ethically. Now is the time to pursue neighborliness in Jewish text and in Jewish action. Perhaps this is our task now and forever, the truth we must pursue, to make sure our neighbors are kept whole, and to understand that we must make them whole so that we may live, and so we may become strong. Thank you, Ms. Kushner, and Kami Ivason. May this be God's will, all this together we say. Amen. We reopen our prayer books, pages 4 and 5, as we raise our cups and juice. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mishpatav v'ratzah banu, v'shabbat kadsho v'halav ratzon nichilanu, zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit, ki hu yom tefillah l'mikayeh kodesh. Zecher tziyah mitzrayim, kivanu v'chata, yadanu kidata, mikol ha'amim, Shabbat kasheka, yava u'kratzon, inkaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadei HaShabbat. L'chaim t'alayim and Page 283, we stand for the Aleinu. Let us adore the ever-living God and render praise unto you, who spreads out the heavens and established the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens above, and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and the loss of life and death. Please choose from among the various meditations beginning on page 288. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died in the season in years past, and those who have gone into our life of our own. As the name of your loved one is called out, we fight to stand if we so wish, and when all names have been read out, we'll stand together for college. On this Shabbat, our hearts go out to the families of Toby Archimon, Thomas Brunner, Zachary Lowenstein, Eugene Oden, Louis Wald, Boris Brodsky, Daniel Carlin, Beryl Archmont, and John O. Spence, called to their final resting place over this past year. And from across the years, we recall the names of Jacob Bamberger, Max Bank, Charles Barker, David Boyda, Hy Berlin, Fanny Cohen, Jean Becombe, Tessie Friedman, Sarah Edith Gardner, Josephine Greenberg, Catherine Isaacson, Yetta Morantz, Leon W. Morris, Rachel Pinazar, Robert H. Pittman, Byron Saltzman, Dr. J. Marvin Saltzman, and Bertie S. Samuels. The yard side of whose passing takes place at the season of the year as and their memories be for blessing. As together we now stand for Romans Cottage, page 294. Yikadal, Yikadal, Shemei Vilma, Yikra, Yirite, Yamlet, Malkute, Bachaye, Chon, Yomei, Chon, Bachaye, Dekol, Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Gizman, Tari, Amen. Yehei, Shemei, Rabba, Barak, Lelam, Omeamaya, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yipa'ar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yinadar, Yinadler, Yinalal, Shemei, Kudishah, Yikud, Elam and Kol Birkata Bashirata, Birkata Benekhamata, Dahirat, Yolama, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba and Shemaya, B'chaim, Aleinu Yaakov Israel, Amen. Hoseh Shalom B'mrama, Kuyaseh Shalom, Aleinu Yaakov Israel, Amen. May the source of peace and peace to those who mourn, comfort all who are bereaved among us. As together we say, Amen. Please be seated. No real announcements, but our service is next week. We're heading into the holiday season, of course. I think Sister has a fundraiser going, and if you're interested in buying one of those collars from Chicago, I think you need to get your order in fairly soon. I can't remember the deadline. Sharon Green is happy to take them up. Our closing song, as led by our Wizardress of the Ivories. On page 346, the High Aaron